Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media, LLC. Broaden the scope of exposure for your business by going beyond the interview. Learn more at www.jmmbmediallc.com or email us at jmmbradio@gmail.com. Approach each customer with the idea of helping him or her to solve a problem or achieve a goal, not of selling a product or service. Brian Tracy. Today, we welcome Dave Kahle. Dave Kahle has been in practice for 30 years. He's been the #1 salesperson in the country for 2 different companies in 2 distinct industries and selling situations. He has trained or consulted for over 459 individual companies. Dave is a high-energy, intense, world-class speaker who has presented in 5 Canadian provinces, 11 countries, and 47 United States. Dave has authored 13 books, including his most recent book, The Good Book on Business. His books have been translated into 8 languages and are available in 20 countries. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, welcome. Wow. Sales. That's a hard
Yes, ma'am.
thing for a lot of people.
That's true. It is. And a lot of people have misconceptions and erroneous ideas about sales.
Yeah, so I am so glad that you are here because we need to get rid of all of that. So
Do our best.
okay. So I wanted to go at the Christian first.
All right.
Mastering a Christian approach to sales.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
You know what it looks like, and this is something that I've learned, throughout the years. If you take the best practices of the best salespeople and identify those, and then you take biblical practices for sales and identify those, the two are coincide. So the best practices of Christian sales are, in fact, what the world eventually arrives at, but they've been there revealed in the Bible all this time.
How so?
How so?
Yes.
Well, people ask me what are some of those principles? As well, integrity.
Yeah.
So that really that's a good example. Integrity is certainly a virtue that's taught in the Bible.
Absolutely.
And yet, from a worldly perspective, integrity is good business. And so the best salespeople are salespeople who have integrity. And oh, by the way, that's been taught for 2,000 years in the Bible. So that's an example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that definitely makes sense. So how do you build a good sales system?
Well, you start with the customer. As in anything in sales, you start with the customer. And I like to use a little bit of a diagram. If you can imagine thinking about sales in terms of a progression of a relationship with the customer. So we begin with suspects. Suspects are people we suspect might one day do business with us. They don't know us. We don't know them. I like to say they live in the land of apathy and ignorance. They don't know who we are and they don't care. Their life's got, well enough without us this far. So we identify some suspects who we think might one day do business with us, and then we learn something about them and we turn them into prospects. And that's a prospect is someone who really can do business with you. And then we see we're moving them closer and closer into a relationship. The next step is the biggest when we turn a prospect into a customer. And a customer is someone who gives you money for what you have. When money changes hands, and the relationship changes dramatically, and now you have a relationship. There's some history, and then with a customer, you treat them in such a way that they become clients. And a client is my term for someone who buys regularly over and over again. And that's a closer step in the relationship. And then finally, you turn some of those clients into partners. And partners are people who buy everything they can from you and just really couldn't imagine going forth without a relationship with you. You're just interconnected with them. And so we look at sales in the big picture. I call it the big picture sales process. we move people closer and closer into a committed economic relationship with ourselves and our companies. And that's what sales does in a big picture.
Hmm.
And money spins off as a fringe benefit of the relationship that is the core of sales.
Mhm. I've never heard it put that way.
That's why you have me.
Absolutely. Wow. And that makes perfectly good sense. And we don't always think about it because some people in the early days of their business, a lot of people have fear of asking for money.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's so?
Boy, people are afraid. I think a lot of times afraid of rejection. And honestly, we see that in salespeople who are afraid to ask for the order. They'd rather get nothing than a no. So we have salespeople who will just continually follow up, and never really ask because they don't want to hear no. And I think that's a pretty common human trait. It's not just sales, but it's a human trait. People don't like to be rejected. They don't like to hear no. So I think that's probably it.
Absolutely. I can remember you made me think about a time where I had a task to get 100 no's in a training that I was involved in. And it definitely makes a thicker skin.
Yeah.
In order to, when you hear no, it doesn't necessarily mean never. It might mean not right now. You caught at a bad time.
Yes.
It could mean a number of things, and not to take it personally.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's one of the core in beginning sales is to not take it personally. Yeah.
Yes, and it's difficult, and I mean, I was afraid at one time because, like you said, nobody wants to hear no.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Yeah.
even as a kid, you don't want to hear no.
That's right. Yeah. Especially then, I think.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But doing exercises and understanding what no really means is very important. And I'm grateful for going through those exercises. I mean, I did the telemarketing thing where I would call people hung up on. I didn't do it for the money. I did it to be able to deal with rejection.
Yes. Well, there's a place where you get it. I like to say that telemarketing is the punch press of sales. It's ka-chunk, 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 ka-chunk. You just keep at it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Having gone through, I'm sorry, Ida, go ahead.
Ruth, I'm sorry.
No, I was just thinking as you were talking, all of these practices of learning how to accept rejection, because that's part of sales. Not everybody's going to say yes. So I'm going to jump to another question. Can anyone be a salesperson, or can anyone become a salesperson?
Yeah, boy, that's a good question. I'm often asked that, and here's the way I respond. If you imagine people on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of their sales ability, I can take a 7 and turn him into a 10, and I can take a 5 and turn him or her into a 7, and I can take a 3 and turn that person into a 5, but I can't take a 1 and turn him into a 10. So the bottom line is everyone can sell better, but not everyone can sell with the best. That you have to have something to start with if you're going to be one of the best. And then, of course, you still have to work very hard at it. But everyone can sell better than they do right now.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yes, that is very interesting. So training, give us a little snippet about the processes that you take your students through.
Yeah, well, that's really kind of interesting because I have come at this through really a different perspective. First of all, I've been a speaker for 30 years, and I'm one of these guys that, if you have 25 or 300 salespeople in your company and you're having a national sales meeting, you want somebody to come in and speak, that would be me, you know. And so I have spoken to tens of thousands, honestly, tens of thousands, that's not an exaggeration, of salespeople, and done half-day and full-day programs and 2-day seminars and all that kind of thing. And yet, when it comes down to this, if you ask me, and people do, what's the best way to train a salesperson? I say one piece at a time, one chunk at a time, spread over time. And so we have a training system, and this is the way it works. We break what we call the system, the Kahle system, selling system. We break it down into 16 modules, and each module is a month. And it starts out with an email from me saying, check on this, download this handout and watch this video. And we teach one thing, just one thing. But then in the handout, we ask them to do it this month. And then the next week they get another email, because we believe in dripping content out week by week, so it stays at the top of their mind. Next week they get another email with a blog post or podcast or something. But here's the real secret. And then the last week of the month, now the manager has to be involved. And if the manager won't be involved, we won't do the program. Manager has to be involved, because we send him or her an email last week of the month and said, here's the questions we want you to ask. So we want you to gather the people that are in the training, usually, you know, a half dozen at a time, something like that, in a 1-hour meeting, and ask these questions. We script it for them. And the questions hold the salespeople accountable. It's like this, like, you know, John, this month you were supposed to do this in your assignment. Tell us all how it went when you did it. And so we build in two pieces that, well, three pieces. We build in practice, accountability, and encouragement in a month. One thing, and the next month, the next thing, in exactly the same format. And that is the way you change behavior. You know, as a trainer, people say, can you train my salespeople? You just say, do you want me to change their behavior, or do you want me to put on a half-day show? If you want me to change their behavior, then that takes time, and it takes practice, and takes encouragement and accountability and so on. I can't do that in a half day. I can inspire people and give them some good ideas, right. But a month from now, how much of it is still going to be there? And again, I'm a guy. I mean, I've done this for 30 years, you know, so I've been there and done that.
Yeah. I like that approach, because I mean, when you only focus on one thing, you can absorb more.
Exactly.
As opposed to this week you're getting this, next week you're getting that. And that's sort of how college is set up. It's like too fast paced, in my opinion. And if you don't get it, then you pretty much failed the class before you even get started, because you are already lost on the first part. And they're already on the next part.
You know, that's, I'm sorry, Ruth, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, that's what I appreciate about your process, is that they have a longer time period. You're not trying to do everything in a week, but also the application. They get to actually apply it. And in that month, work it through and figure out, what is it that I'm not understanding?
That's right.
What piece, what am I missing? What have I missed? You know,
exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
And you know what else? When they have the meeting, so they have a monthly meeting of everybody together, and what happens is salespeople start communicating. Now we all have now the same concepts, we have the same terms, we have the same language, and they start sharing and helping one another. And this was a surprise to me when we first started doing this. My concept was, I'm going to train salespeople, I'm going to change their behavior, and that was our focus. What we heard back multiple times over and over again is you've changed the culture in our company, because people are helping one another. They're talking freely about things they would never talk about before. because we're asking and creating an environment where that kind of thing happens. And honestly, I mean, I've got videos on the website of presidents saying you've changed the culture in our company. And it was never our intention. We were just trying to train salespeople, but because it just evidently there's such a need for the kind of thing that we're creating, and it was bigger than what I actually ever anticipated.
Yes, and that's big for sure, because you want to change the culture.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I was gonna, Ruth, you said something that brought up to mind this, compare this to college. There are no quizzes and there's no exams in our training. And the reason for that is, and I tell them outright, I don't care what you know. You're not graded for what you know. In sales, nobody pays you for what you know. They pay for what you do. So I don't care what you know. It's what you do. So we're going to get you to do things differently. Wow. That is my definition of learning. Learning for an adult on the job is defined by behavior change. Another, so here's an example. I'll have this happen all the time. I do a seminar and somebody comes up afterward and they say something like, "Oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I learned so much." And I don't say this now because it would be rude, but I think it. And I think, you don't know if you've learned anything. Come back to me a month from now and show me what you're doing differently, and then we'll agree that you've learned. But if you don't change your behavior, you haven't learned a thing.
That is so powerful, because I've just gone through a training, and that's what I'm finding in the aftermath. It's ended. I thought I did learn a lot of things, but now it's applying them. And in the application, I'm finding some very interesting things. And I think that's so much of sales, of like adult learning, is that it's not just about, like Ida brought up, colleges where you get graded, because you borrowed somebody else's cheat sheet or whatever and wrote your essay. Adult learning is that we want to know that we know.
Yes.
And we want to see the fruits of our labor. When you're in college, it's all in the future. When I graduate, then I'll see the fruits of going to college. But for adults, it's not like that. We want to see it now. We want to know that what we know, and we want to see that we have actually physically moved in the way that we do things. So that's what I think what you're talking about. And you said you've been doing it for 30 years. I wish I heard about it I won't go into the number of years, but anyway, a long time ago. This is very powerful, very powerful.
Yes. Yes. So if companies want to work with you, how do they reach out to you?
Oh, go to my website, and we have, so it's www.davekahle.com. Easy to remember, davekahle.com. And, there's places to sign up for. We have, so I'm a writer, that's my core gift is writing. And so I write articles and books and so on, but I write a weekly e-zine, which is a publication that we email to people called Sell Better. And then we have one for sales leaders called Lead Better. It goes out every other week. And then we have one for Christian business people called Building Biblical Businesses. Goes out every other week. So go to the website, sign up for that, get to know, my stuff, get a sense, feel if you're comfortable with, my concepts and so on. And then let's talk. I'd love to talk. Just give me a call and email me, and then we'll talk.
Okay. Yes. So a sales dashboard. What is that? And
so that's great. So if you're going to have a system, and again, like I believe in sales systems, and I'm a system. The name of my business is Kahle Sales Systems. Okay, so I'm a systems guy. So if you're going to have a sales system, the system implies that you're measuring pieces of it. Like just think of a system that that produces cars, like I'm sure that there's multiple places where they're measuring different parts of the process, how many start and how many this and how many, and so that's what a sales dashboard is. It allows you to measure the key steps in the process. So, I just talked about suspects, prospects, customers, clients, partners. So here's just a simple little thing. How many prospects do you have into the month this month? That ought to be on the dashboard. And the next month, you ask the same thing. And if the number of prospects are not going up, you got something you need to work on.
Mhm.
And how many new customers did you create this month? And if the answer is 0, then that ought to be a red flag. And so you create what I call key activities, which are the really important kind of things that must happen if you're going to create a sale. Then you create a way to measure those, and then you measure them every month. And at the end of every month, you just look at those measurements and you find one thing to improve on, just one. And next month, you do it all over again. And next month, you do the same thing all over again. And by the end of the year, your sales system is just humming right along because you've improved bits and pieces along the way.
I like that. And I think some people do it unconsciously, but they don't document the measurements.
Yeah.
They don't, like they say, well, I didn't make any money this month. They'll say stuff like that.
Right.
And not really looking at, well, why didn't you make any money this month?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And the reason why you didn't is because you probably didn't do enough of the right things. The thing about sales is you have to do enough of the right things, and you've got to do them well enough. So the quantity and quality of the key sales behaviors. So, depending on, and your dashboard varies from the selling situation and the type of company and the customers and so on. You could have different things, but typically, the number of prospects, number of customers, and you can identify some key steps between that, making a present. How many presentations did you make to prospects? Well, that'll be measured, and when again you look at those things, how many reorders from customers, and so you can break down the things that are important to you and measure them, and then you instill this part of the system. A system implies regular, methodical kinds of activities, and so one of the things that you do is you have a regular end of the month meeting, a sales system meeting. And maybe it's just you if you're an entrepreneur, and maybe if you got a bigger business, it's you got a team. But you do it once a month, every month, and you look at the numbers and you compare the quantity. Did we do enough of them? And the quality. Did we do them well enough? And again, each month you come to some conclusion, say, this is the place right here. We need to do better. Now, how can we do better? And you bring the best minds into how can we do this one thing better? And you do it better. And then the next month, you just do the whole thing all over again. It's a continuous improvement process. It goes forever. When are you finished? Never. You're never finished because it keeps going forever.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds so simple to do, but like that saying goes, it's also simple not to.
Yeah. It's probably easier not to. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
This is amazing. I'm glad we spoke with you. So what kind of advice can you give salespeople out there, a salesperson? Probably, let's say somebody that's just getting started.
Yeah.
And really want to be a good salesperson.
Yeah. I think the advice I give them is to look at it as a profession. It is a profession, and understand that you have to continually improve forever. You're never, this is one of the things I've most enjoyed about sales, is you're never as good as you can be. There's always room for improvement. I find myself, I've been doing this for, I'm not going to tell you how long, for a long time, and yet, I find myself saying, oh man, I should have done this. What was I thinking? I should have asked this question. Why didn't I? And so you just, there are key best practices in the world of sales And the best salespeople understand that, and they mimic and they put into their routines the best practices of the best salespeople. That is a lifetime endeavor. It's never finished. You're always going to improve and get better, and that's the name of that's the job.
So the work is never done.
It's never done. It's never completed. You know, there's always more.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So when you go into a company, because some companies, they might be doing good sales, but they may not have their dashboard quite in order.
Yeah.
So what are the first things when you walk in that you discuss with that sales team?
Well, you know, it depends. That's a great question. It depends on where they're at when they call me. Like sometimes we have a thing we call a sales system audit, where we'll come in. It takes several weeks. We'll come in and look at every piece of their sales system and rank them, and give them a set of recommendations. So that's a project. Oftentimes, people don't want that big a picture. They want to focus on the salespeople. And how can we improve the salespeople? And typically that involves training, but it also involves some sales management practices. It involves a compensation, and involves creating a structure that encourages and enables the salesperson to be successful. So it's people want to say, what can you do with my salespeople? And the answer is, it's bigger than just the person. I mean, we can improve the people, but there's other things that need to be done. Here's a great example. If I could, have I got a minute or two?
Yes.
Okay. So here's, this is very, very typical. So I have a client right now, working with a client in Nicaragua. Of all places, but I work around the world with English-speaking people. So a client in Nicaragua, and their sales are not satisfactory. And the question was, well, how can we train the salespeople? And I said, well, let's take a look at things first. And we discovered, now this is not the salesperson, this is the system. They were encouraging, or the salespeople were calling on everybody and thinking they were doing the right thing by getting the little orders and feeling fulfilled and so on, but they weren't profitable. And so we did an exercise where we said, let's define the potential. Let's look at the potential of all your accounts, and let's spend more time with the A's, the higher potential, and less time with the C's. Now that didn't take much training, but it was a system, because we had to create measurements for potential in an account. We had to rank them. All that was done, at a higher level than just the salesperson. But then we presented the salesperson with a way to be more successful. Spend half your time on the A's and the other half with everybody else. So invest your time appropriately. And when they did that, they're doing that right now. They're in the process of it, and things are beginning to improve. And we really didn't improve the salespeople, haven't trained them a bit yet, but we changed the system. One of the things that I've learned throughout the years is this: that when you change the structure, you change the behavior of the people who operate within that structure. So I'm a big advocate of what I call the sales structure. Things like I just mentioned. Who do you call on? ABC customers and things like that. I learned that structure thing in kind of a unique way. When we think about the Cold War, we all know the Cold War, right? And so you have the USSR, the USA, and about the same population size, about the same distribution of natural resources and so on. Yet one was had, in terms of artistic achievement and human freedom, far surpassed the other. Why is that? The system was different. The structure, change the structure and change the behavior of the people who operate within that structure. So that's on a macro basis. On a micro basis, this is kind of interesting. So my wife and I have been foster parents, and over the years we had 19 foster children of various sexes and races and physical and emotional disabilities. And I would watch this happen. So we'd get a foster kid come into our home, and my wife would orient, let's say, that child. You know, here's the bathroom. This is where you will brush your teeth. You will wash your face. You will brush your teeth before you greet the family. Here's the bed. You will sleep in the bed. You will not sleep in the closet. You will not sleep on the floor. You will sleep in this bed. Come along. Here's the table. This is where we eat. You will sit at the table. You will eat with a knife and fork. You will eat when the rest of the family eats. You will eat with the rest of the family. Wham! I mean, boom, down on these kids comes the structure. And, you know, and a foster kid, for the most part, you know, they're emotionally upset. They're in a crisis for the most part, and they're looking for stability. They're looking for something to hold on to. And so here comes the structure. Boom. And within a day or two, the kids are adjusting, and they're beginning to heal, and they're beginning to grow, because they understand the structure. They know it's good for them. They understand that, and they accept it. But what's different between that kid today than 2 weeks ago? The structure. The structure is different. So when you change the structure, you change the behavior of the people who operate within that structure. And that applies not just to sales, but that applies to life, you know, everything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Ruth, what's ticking in your head?
So many things. The concept of structure, changing the behavior of the people who are in the structure. You know, I don't think we think about that anymore. And like we're all in the same age area. So we have memories of places where there was definitely structure. Where today I was just having a conversation with someone, well, my niece actually, and she's 20 years younger than I am or so. And she was saying about how she has noticed that there is no more structure. The structure that we had before the pandemic is gone. Young people don't want to work for anybody. They want to work for themselves, and they want to do what they want to do, how they want to do it. Even the housing industry is changing from, you know, basically being built by contractors to people going and buying land and building their own houses or prefab. Again, that structure that we've been so used to is gone. So that's going to show up in any organization, because it's just going to show up. It has to. So what are your thoughts on not restoring the old structure? Because that's not happening.
Yeah.
What does the new structure look like?
Wow. So are we talking the economy or the society, or our families, you know? So the problem is it exists at all of those levels, you know, and it exists on a personal level as an individual. You know, what's the structure you have in your life? And, you know, I'm a Christian. I believe Jesus Christ is a big part of my life. And without that, gee, I would be rudderless and structureless and lost, you know? So at what level do you think about that? What level do you apply those concepts? And I would say, you know, basically every level, individual on up. But you know, as with everything else, starts with the individual. And you're right, we're losing the structure that has held families and individuals, schools, you know, together. Just look at all the chaos that we're seeing around us, and it's because we've lost some of that structure. We've lost commitments. We've lost that. And when that goes, then it opens up the world to all kinds of things, you know, that
Yes.
you know, and of course we're seeing it every day, you know, every day we're seeing expressions of that.
So, you know, I know we're talking about sales, but it's just interesting. I think that's what was ticking. how what you're teaching and what you've been, these systems that you've created, the way that you work with people, it applies everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah, that's a great
Across
insight. Thank you, Ruth.
across the board. There's a question, what business can this be applied to? Every business
Yeah,
can be
that's
applied
right.
in your family life.
Yes.
It can be applied anywhere. And I
Yeah.
think that's amazing. And I think that's because you're coming from a Christian principled
Hmm.
course.
Yeah.
I think that's the factor that makes it so universal. It's just amazing. Again, we invite people back for more interviews, and you're definitely on the list because
Oh, thank you.
this is people just don't think about this. They're not thinking about this, and they're wondering why their businesses are failing, why they don't get
Yeah.
sales, and they're wondering. Just the pandemic did so much to uproot us. The old paradigm is gone.
Yeah.
People are looking for ways to restabilize themselves, be they entrepreneurs, solopreneurs,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And this is, the bottom line, the way that we interact with people when it comes to goods, any kind of merchandise, be it digital or physical, it's through sales.
Yeah.
You can't get around
Yeah.
it. You just can't get
Yeah.
around
What
it. If you're a farmer,
what a great insight. Thank you.
yeah, it's just amazing. So yeah, we want more conversation.
Yes, we do. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you think that. I would love to come back.
Absolutely. So again, how do people connect with you?
Just go to the website, davekale.com, and send me an email, info@davekale.com. Or there's several places on the website to fill out a form, and send it, say you'd like to be contacted, and sign up for one of the e-zines. And I do 2 podcast shows. So you sign up for the podcast shows. I do YouTube channel. So I'm out there in all those different places. But hop on, hop on, and like I say, get to know what I'm talking about, and see if it resonates with you, and if so, then send me an email and let's talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dave, for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with us on our platform. This information has definitely empowered me, and I know it's going to empower our audience.
Well, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.